a brief illness, Dr. George Blake passed away January 10th, 2018, at the age of 95. It was more than 60 years ago that George became ordained as a Buddhist monk in Thailand. Before this, he left his native Jamaica, enlisting in the Royal Air Force. After quite an eventful voyage across the Atlantic, George would eventually become stationed in northern Scotland, working as a meteorologist as part of the war effort. In 2014, George elaborated on this time in an interview with Canada's national news magazine, Maclean's.
I remember the time when I was at secondary school in Kingston. It was a technical college, and the war was still on. And an article appeared in the local newspaper, the Daily Gleaner, asking for volunteers to join the Royal Air Force, that you had to be 18 years of age or older. A number of us boys at this college became quite excited about it because the article also reported that if we survived the war, we would be granted a scholarship to any college or university for which we had the qualification. And that was one of the attractions. And so quite a number of us decided to take the risk. And so we volunteered to join the Royal Air Force, hoping that things would work out.
In the accompanying article in Maclean's, George talks of how after the war, he decided not to take advantage of a university scholarship and instead became a local government clerk in London. He filled his leisure hours playing rugby, founding a cricket club, and reading about the life of St. Francis of Assisi. This spiritual yearning led him to become a novice monk, and later on he traveled to Bangkok, where he became an ordained Buddhist monk. But in time he realized the advice he had been given may have been right. After his spiritual education, he began longing for academic training. George's life had many strange turns, and he would, upon his return to the UK from Thailand, decide to go to university, where he would receive a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Edinburgh. After applying his knowledge to the treatment of alcoholism in London, he was invited to teach at York University and helped set up treatment programs at the Whitby Psychiatric Hospital. He later founded the Pinewood Centre, where he successfully implemented addiction treatment as well. Besides treating alcoholism, Dr. Blake used behavior therapy, an emerging practice at the time, to help patients overcome habits and fears with unprecedented success. There's no doubt that his Buddhist studies informed his approach to treatment, and his influence on how we cure patients today cannot be underestimated. During this time in Canada, George helped raise his two boys, Yashin and Arun. George loved the great outdoors and loved to take photos, and founded the Whitby Photo Club. Upon retirement, George had more time for writing and pursuing his love of drumming, drum making, and storytelling. He founded the Durham Folklore Society, taking part in storytelling festivals from as far away as Whitehorse, Yukon, to Montreal. His drumming group, Callaloo, took on many incarnations and eventually became the Callaloo Folklore Theatre. They found their mark when they put on the Harriet Tubman story at Oshawa's Club Carib. The Harriet Tubman production that George spearheaded was his most ambitious undertaking. Tubman, who founded the Underground Railroad that helped many American slaves escape to freedom in Canada, was an important figure, and George did her legacy proper justice. He brought history to life. Recipient of the 2014 African Canadian Lifetime Achievement Award, George contributed in so many ways. On Saturday, February 17, 2018, Dr. George Blake's legacy was honored. George also wrote books about Black history and Buddhism. But the greatest story that George ever created was the fascinating story of his very own life.
One particularly fine example of the lasting and profound impact that teams can have on the communities that we serve is Dr. George Blake. Born in Green Island, Jamaica in 1922, Dr. Blake inspired many with his enthusiasm and involvement in various pursuits. He was a Royal Air Force veteran, a Buddhist monk, a photographer, an author, and a PhD psychologist who did early work in behavior therapy. In 1967, he founded the original Pinewood Centre, which today is part of the Lakeridge Health System, helping adults, youth, and women work through their challenges with addictions or mental health. What Dr. Blake started more than 50 years ago has grown to include more than 13 community locations from Scarborough across Durham region, offering a range of programs to support people. At Pinewood Centres, teams work with people in a caring environment to develop a personal treatment plan because everyone has their own needs and goals. Treatment plans may include educational and motivational workshops and group sessions that give the tools needed to achieve and maintain a healthy lifestyle. These services and programs offered at the various Pinewood Centre locations make a tremendous difference to those who access the services in our community. Sadly, Dr. Blake passed away in January of this year. To honor his work and his contribution to the community, Lakeridge Health is pleased to announce that a tribute to Dr. Blake at the Pinewood Centre, 300 Centre Street, the original location of the program. While the details have not yet been finalized, we know the memorial will include a portrait of Dr. Blake, painted by his daughter-in-law, along with an accompanying plaque that memorializes his contributions. In addition, in honor of Dr. Blake's contributions and his strong support and advocacy in support of higher education, and in recognition of the United Nations International Decade of People of African Descent from 2015 to 2024, a mentorship program for youth of African Canadian descent will be established in Dr. Blake's honor. This initiative, thank you very much. This initiative will help to support these individuals in pursuing careers in medicine and health sciences, while recognizing the important contribution of the diverse community in the future of Lakeridge Health. We will work with community organizations and our colleagues at Durham's academic institutions over the coming months to design the program with the goal of having it in place in the 2019 academic year.